Get ready, boys.
Are you ready? You should be, because the NHL and the Dallas Stars are back after 3 weeks off. They return to the ice tonight, and Luds and I are going to get you ready. It's pregame show time on DLLS. Hey, everybody, this is the DLLS Stars Pregame Show. We are live here from the podcast studio. At least I am. I'm Owen Newkirk. Our producer, Ryan Vodders, is here. Our other half of tonight's pregame show is Craig Ludwig, but he's not here. He's over there, and there is Denver, Colorado, in enemy territory, Luds, although not for tonight's game, as we get you ready for the Stars and the Seattle Kraken. Lot with Luds in just a second. Before we do, there is an NFL Combine sale for diehards. If you want to become a DLLS diehard member and you haven't done it before, now is the time. Hit us up. Go to alldlls.com. $36 for the first year. You get access to the All-City NFL Draft Guide, a free t-shirt, and all the things that comes with being a diehard. So if you haven't done it already, you need to. It's a great deal. It ends on, that's right, Luds is showing you that QR code. It ends on Sunday. So you have the rest of the weekend. It's Wednesday now. So the rest of the weekend to take advantage of that special offer. All right, Luds, let's get into it tonight. Let's start with we're going to have to rattle off some lineup news because we talked about this yesterday on the show, the whole show, but now we have some more clarity. Let's start with Lian Bichsel. We're not going to call him the Big Rig because the Big Rig is in town tonight to play for Seattle. But big Swiss guy himself, Lian Bichsel, has missed 31 games, 3 months due to a fracture somewhere in the lower body, somewhere in the lower leg region. We don't know if it was a foot or an ankle or something in that range, but we do know it was a broken bone, and he's missed 3 months. He's back in the lineup tonight. And that, I think, is going to be a big lift for a team that's missing some big players tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the start of the season wasn't what we had hoped it would be. I don't think it was exactly what he hoped it would be also. So, but again, that's kind of that sophomore, not jinx, but, you do really well, and then you think you can come right back, and things just kind of work out the way it is, but all of a sudden 600 players in the league kind of know who you are now and where your strengths and weaknesses are. I think for Lian coming back tonight, he's got to be in control. I know he's going to want to get in there and pick up from the hitting standpoint where he wants to be and what he expects, and so do the rest of the guys. But I think the timing is important, and again, maybe it's a good thing that guys they're not in mid-season form, so to speak, because they've had 3 weeks off. The opponents I'm talking about. So, but if you start, those big hits and you start getting a little bit behind it or ahead of it or whatever it may be, now you end up chasing back to where you're supposed to be and scrambling. So I just want him to play in control where the guy is where he's supposed to be. Then you go ahead and you finish your checks. And I think, and most importantly for him, and in fact, any defenseman that comes back and that's been out for a while, your positioning on the ice has to be right. You want to be in the middle of the ice, more on the outside. If you start finding yourself chasing back to the front of the net, you've kind of lost your spot a little bit.
Now, if you guys don't remember, because it's been a long time, his last game when he got hurt was at home November 30th against the Ottawa Senators. So it's been all of December, all of January, and almost all of February with Bichsel being out of the lineup. And Luds, we talked about this big theme of the last 3 games before the break. Stars went on a 6-game winning streak to end that stretch of their schedule before the Olympics. And those last 3, there was a concerted effort with Adam Ernie in the lineup to be more physical, not necessarily out hit teams by a ton, but not be out hit, play more that playoff style that Gully's pushing for. And they found success doing that. Having Bichsel in the lineup, you would imagine, would only help that style as long as he plays within himself.
Yeah, and I think as a group, they've got to get to that spot. Obviously, they're missing some key pieces, right? So, and I know that Gully, I read something today what Gully was talking about and everything. And you probably have a clip. Do you have a clip of Gully before I start talking about
No,
this?
not tonight.
Okay.
We're going just Luds, all Luds.
Okay. Well, he had talked about, getting those hits and get the physicality going and about being where you're supposed to be. And but everything that he said and every adjective that I heard him say is all leaning towards being able to defend. It's not about going and scoring goals. It's about being in the right areas of the ice and doing things through the neutral zone, being in the correct spots. All those things that he's saying isn't about offensive opportunities. It's about, where you're going to be in your neutral zone, where you're going to be in the defensive zone. So, and again, part of that may be because of tonight's game, you're missing Hintz and you're missing Rantanen. You're missing some key pieces, and the power play may not be as dangerous as what they've seen and we've seen for a while because there's two important pieces missing there. So you don't want to have one of those situations similar to what was in the beginning of the year where things may not be clicking and they may not be playing well in their own zone, but that was bailing them out of games and they were winning hockey games because of the power play. So basically, let's not get into that kind of run and gun thing where if we need to play catch up, we're missing a couple key pieces right now.
There's an interesting conversation that I want to come back to about what you just said because it pertains to Lane Lambert and the Kraken, and that we'll get into that again in that part. But you're right, because the Stars have enough offensive weapons. They don't have to just preach offense. They can focus on defense and still create offense and score goals because of their roster. Seattle, on the other hand, we'll talk about that later. Maybe not so much, but I want to get back to Rantanen because you mentioned that, and of course, Hintz. So Roope Hintz is out tonight. They're hopeful that he might be able to recover from his illness and play over the weekend. Same with Radek Faksa, who is on IR, upper body injury. They are hopeful he can play Saturday. And then, of course, we talked about this at length on yesterday's show, but Mikko Rantanen is on IR at least 2 weeks, probably more than that. We could be 4, it could be 5. We don't know. But because of that, that's 3 forwards that they would normally have in their lineup. Well, take a look at the Stars forward groups that we expect to see tonight, because that means that Colin Blackwell and Nathan Bastian come in, but they were short a player and they have an open roster spot. So they called up your buddy R2D2, aka R2 Huru, will play. And here's how they line up. So Luds, obviously Rantanen and Hintz are big losses in this team. How do you think, what are your thoughts about the way they're lining up their 4 lines of forwards and how this affects the guys that are in the lineup tonight?
When I love that stuff. When I look at that, I immediately think about what we just got done talking about. I just think that, you don't want to play catch-up hockey. And no slight to these guys. And I look at mainly at the bottom 6. So, and really, you don't have as much pop. You just don't.
Yes.
And so we don't want to get into that type of a game where we're chasing, as the game gets 2/3 of the way through, and now we got to open things up. So that's why I think you keep this game close to the vest. I think that's why the word physicality and the hit thing comes up, because everybody can do that. That's one spot here where everybody can do that. Now, Seattle's going to be trying to do the very same thing. Seattle knows the situation that Dallas is in and whether they're going to be up to speed either. They had two skaters and 1 goaltender, I think. And so, but it sounds like they're feeling pretty good about where they ended, the before the break and what they want to pick up on now. So everything that Gully said is really looking at that lineup right there, because doesn't that kind of look like a preseason lineup, to be totally honest with you?
It does, yeah.
But it's like a preseason, well, we got this guy in here tonight, we're going to let him play a couple games, this guy's going to play a few games, and we're going to sit out the superstars. It's only game 2 of preseason. So, along with not being polished and having 3 weeks off and sitting on a beach or maybe sitting on a snowmobile if there's somebody was up north and with a big wineskin on their shoulder and another bottle in the back when you run out of that one after an hour. So who knows what these guys have put themselves through. So we'll see.
Well, before I get you too animated and have you knock a sneaker over and then the whole production setup goes crumbling down, let's remind everybody, because it's been a while, right? It's been 3 weeks since the Dallas Stars played. What happened the last time Dallas played a hockey game? It was the Wednesday to begin the month of February. It was February 4th, and the Stars beat the St. Louis Blues at American Airlines Center 5-4. Jamie Benn, who had not scored a goal in 15 straight games, scored 2, including the go-ahead goal with 22.8 seconds left, set up by Miro Heiskanen. The Stars trailed 2-1. They led 4-2. They let St. Louis back in the game, which has been a bit of a theme in the last little bit, but they got the game-winning goal late, and they won 6 in a row to go into that break. All right, Luds, we've talked about it before. Gully said gives them a couple weeks of peace. No more peace. It's got to be about what's today, not what they've done before.
Yeah, it really is, and he's hoping. I would believe that you're going to bring up Seattle here in a little bit, but I would believe that these two teams are kind of going to approach this game the same way. And what I mean by that is it's going to be, especially for Dallas, a little bit of a change where pucks are you're not going to see a ton of creativity getting to the offensive blue line. I just think that for number one, for Seattle, I believe what they're going to do, they're probably going to get to the center line, and you're going to see some pucks go in, and they're going to want to be able to spend some time down there, which means at the other end of the rink for Dallas, don't be turning pucks over and allowing that to happen. So I do believe that what Dallas will be trying to do, and you mentioned Jamie Benn, and I would think that being the captain and having some key pieces out, I would expect Jamie to try to come out and set a tone tonight. Set a tone for his team, and without taking a trip to the box early on, especially. But I just feel that these teams, I think we're going to see one of these kind of games where, for a Dallas Stars fan, you're probably not going to see the highlight reel goals and all those plays. Now, is Wyatt going to try to make that pass? Yes, he will. And is Duchesne going to try to make it? And will Robo try to make it? And hopefully Robo finds a few spots when Hintz isn't on the ice, or when Mikko's not there making that pass through 3 different players on a power play. Hopefully Robo might have to create a little bit more on his own tonight to get some chances.
What do you think about the additions of Benn and Duchesne to power play 1, filling in for Rantanen and Hintz?
That again, I don't see this power play being like the power play we're used to seeing come out there, where they make 5 or 6 passes before they take that first shot because they're able to make those plays. So I think Matt Duchesne is probably going to be the one trying to, to try to throw it through some seams here and there. Jamie's going to be planted right on top of the crease where he normally is. I think you're going to see Wyatt where he is. It'll be interesting to see if Wyatt gets any of those same kind of looks from the middle of the ice there in tight areas. And Matt Duchesne can do it, not as well as Rantanen, but he can still do it. Then again, when you're missing Hintz there, that takes away from, as far as Seattle's concerned, there's one more less of a problem having Hintz not in that lineup. And especially those 2 guys are obviously big pieces to the Stars power play. So hopefully, I think if Thomas Harley gets on the power play, Thomas Harley's going to do what he does. He's going to shoot pucks. So I would highly encourage Miro to do the same thing.
I'm smiling because Harley is literally what I wanted to ask you next. So you segued brilliantly without even knowing what you were supposed to do. So you understood the assignment. Thomas Harley said looked and said he was a little tired. Now, he's played a tough tournament. He played in the gold medal game on Sunday, but then he also had to fly partway across the globe, time zone changes. Unlike Jake Ottinger, who's only backing up today, although he might have had a little bit more of a celebratory issue to try to overcome, Harley is, of all these Stars Olympians, he's the one that played most recently and has to get himself ready to go. Whereas the Finns played the bronze medal game the day before. And of course, only 2 of those 4 are actually in the lineup tonight, in Miro and Esa, which they're like androids. They'll be fine. Put them on the ice, they'll play 30 minutes. What do you think about Thomas Harley trying to kind of get through this one, knowing the jet lag, the emotional disappointment of losing the gold medal game, and everything that goes with that?
Here's what I think. I don't think the jet lag is going to bother him at all. I think because Mikko's out of the lineup and because Roope's out of the lineup, he thinks he's the next guy to jump up and create a little bit more. So I think we're going to, I don't know. I just feel like this is an opportunity for Thomas Harley to show again what we've seen when he plays with those kind of players, whether it's the Four Nations or the Olympics. He looks like a different player than he has been in the first part of the year because he's playing with all that talent. And I for some reason, I feel that as tired as he is, and again, he should be tired, and he had a hell of a couple of weeks over in Italy. So, but I got a funny feeling that he's going to be able to gather up some steam and probably be a little bit more noticeable moving up and down the ice.
All right, we're going to talk about the Seattle Kraken and the Stars goaltending and lots more after we hear from Luds about merchandise right here on the pregame show here on DLLS.
Well, let's get the hats out of the way. Now, I don't mean to say get them out of the way, Ryan, but let's talk about our hat collection in the honor of our boy Sam. I don't know if he's coming on later tonight with a couple of updates for us, but there's his caddy hat, and then there's our favorite one is the white one over on the other side. All right, let's go to the finisher, Ryan, because as we've talked ad nauseum, the finisher is not in the lineup tonight. They are going to miss one, but this is a big shirt that everybody should own along with the Wyatt Johnston one. So I'm calling. What did I say Wyatt would do? And everybody thinks I'm wrong because Rantanen is not in the lineup. I think he's going to end up getting to that mark at, what did I say, the middle of March? Owen, I thought he'd hit that mark.
I believe you said about 3 weeks from now you thought he'd break the record.
Yeah, okay. And then speaking of the Finns, let's go to the Finnish Mafia hoodie, right? Because this is got to be the best seller, okay? Now, if you're following along with us, and this may look like a little bit different picture than you normally see, but I just wanted to make the announcement, as we already didn't tell everybody, this is Sean Shapiro's Mafia hoodie. A couple days ago, I believe it was, right, Owen? Was it yesterday or the day before that?
That's right. I think it was yesterday.
Yes, so especially, I don't know if T.O. knows this, but T.O. can settle down. He's got his Mafia hoodie now.
Well, T.O.'s in the chat right now, so I think he knows the good news.
Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to get that out there for T.O. in case he hadn't heard, and everything's cool now with the hoodies. Although, I don't know, there's a couple other shirts.
There's some T-shirts that still haven't gotten to the right owners yet.
So,
all right. Well, quickly, YouTube Supporters Club. Well, I can notice T.O. in the chat because he is a Supporters Club member, and I see his SC badge. Sign up today. Not only does it give you that badge, it also gives you access to exclusive emojis that only you as a Supporters Club member can use. The Luds, the Stanley Cone, the Bing Bong, everything else. And on top of that, yes, indeed, you get to see exclusive Supporters Club content like Sam trying to come up with what were they 80s movies or 90s movies? 80s and 90s movies, what they were about, because clearly he hasn't seen them. And then before that, Lud's trying to do ad reads and blooper reels, and it's a lot of fun. So become a Supporters Club member. You can get all of that. All right, Luds, let's talk about the Kraken for a minute. I had an interesting conversation yesterday. They had practice in Dallas. They flew on Monday. They didn't skate Monday. They made it a travel day. Practice here yesterday, and obviously they are here tonight. They didn't have a full skate today, just an optional because they practiced yesterday. But we were talking with some of the Kraken travel and some really good people that work for Seattle. And the coaching change from Dan Bilesma to Lane Lambert, the GM change with Ron Francis, of course, being elevated to president of hockey ops and Jason Botterill coming in. There's been some turmoil with this Kraken franchise because they, not quite with the same fanfare as Vegas, expanded, but they had a good first run. They made the playoffs. They beat the Avalanche in 7 games on the road, then immediately came into Dallas, pushed them to 7 games and lost a couple years ago. Well, they haven't been to the playoffs since. It was a couple seasons ago now, and it seems like the new car smell has faded on this Kraken franchise. And, you know, look, the Dan Bilesma hire seemed like a good idea in theory. He's an offensive guy. They want to play up-tempo style. Problem is, Luds, they don't have the roster for that, whereas Lane Lambert's very structured defensive look fits better with what they actually have in the cupboard.
I agree 100%. I mean, you look, there aren't enough bullets in the gun for if he wants to play that kind of system. And again, I just think that they're more of that team that has to play a territorial type of game, and I mean play in the offensive zone, and more pucks have to be directed to the net. We're spoiled here again because of what we are able to see with the group that these guys all have when they're healthy. Here's what I believe. I believe that if Bones continues to do the things that he's doing in Columbus may take their spot in a playoff position. I just think that this team could be the one. If anybody's going to fall out, I think they're a team that could fall out of it. And it's no fault of the players and everything, but it's everything that we're talking about right now. They just don't have enough to keep up offensively with other teams. So, I mean, no matter how you look at it, and how long will Jordan Eberle be there? But as you talked about it a couple of days ago, they have to make some kind of move because of everything else that's going on in Seattle. So that wouldn't be a good move for Eberle. But if they lose the first couple games here and they start slipping, it'll be interesting to see. And I don't think they want to put that out there though either, do they? That they're sellers. That's the last thing you want to put out there for.
I think they need to make the playoffs, and I think that even you talked about it. Doug Armstrong kind of made it public of he didn't think it was worth the expense to add just to get into the wild card and get obliterated by the Avalanche in the first round. The Seattle Kraken would take that right now. They want that. They're also hunting. They're big game hunting, Luds. They need a superstar. That's why they were in on the Artemi Panarin trade rumors. And it's why they keep getting linked with if the Stars and Jason Robertson, which I think they'll still figure out a deal. I'm not that worried about it. But if for some reason Robo and the Stars couldn't make the money work, the Seattle Kraken are waiting with boatloads of cap space and a desire to have a guy that can put the puck in the net like Jason Robertson. That may actually help Robo and his agent with their negotiations because they're one of the teams that would be like, we'll take him. They're desperate for a marquee guy on their franchise.
Which isn't it funny because with Mikko being out a minimum of 2 weeks, so which, and again, they're talking about Crosby's going to be out at least 4 weeks, right? That means he could be out the rest of the season. But when I hear at least 2 weeks, does that mean that it could be 3 weeks? So I don't know, and this may not be the thinking of Jim Nill on all, but I mean, are you concerned that if Rantanen is out for 2.5, 3 weeks and the Stars are playing 500 or they drop down a little bit lower for some reason? I mean, they're going to be a playoff team, but are you going to? But would that tempt you to pull the trigger on something like with Jason Robertson? If you know that Mikko Rantanen's not going to be there for some reason, and we don't know what they know, and they wouldn't tell us anyways. And we're all sitting here going, why would you even think about be willing to give up a 40, 45 consistent goal scorer, almost every season?
Yep, I agree. I don't think it makes a lot of sense, but there are teams out there that are drooling for the possibility of a player like that or a big time center or just anybody that they can put out on the outside of Climate Pledge Arena.
Oh, and wasn't Robo linked to Pittsburgh?
There was some talks of somebody in the media said, "Boy, Pittsburgh should really give Jim Nill a call." And the comment was sort of innocuous of, well, if the Stars don't make a deal with Jason Robertson, Pittsburgh should be interested. And it turned into the whole, wait, Robertson to the Penguins? That makes no sense. Yeah, Pittsburgh would love to have the next guy behind Crosby and Malkin to be, the heir apparent. They have some good young players, but yeah, there are teams out there would love to have a 40-plus goal scorer in their ranks.
But isn't Jason Robertson isn't a person that's chasing the money? Jason Robertson wants to win too. I understand the money side of things, but I don't think he wants to go from an organization like this and a team like this to a team like Pittsburgh. Because if Crosby's out for 4 or 5, I don't know if that team's going to make the playoffs. Pittsburgh. I know they're in a playoff spot now, but I just don't see Robo being that kind of a player that is going shopping to rob.
It's a great point, Luds, because I think that I'm not speaking for Robo, but my impression of him is he doesn't want to take too much of a discount. I think he wants fair market value, But I think what's most important to Jason Robertson is winning. He wants to be somewhere where he can win. And I don't think he's the kind of guy that would take the highest bidder if it meant going to a team that isn't a perpetual playoff team and a cup contender. I think that's probably as important to him as anything else. I know he likes it in Dallas. I know that he would. I don't believe that he's Dallas or nowhere, but I think that it has to be. He would have to be somewhere where he can win. That's important to him.
If Robo was, if Billy Guerin was backing up the Brinks truck, and they're a pretty good team right now, right? And they've got Quinn Hughes and they got Kaprizov. Would you think Robo would? This is just hypothetical.
Boy, that's an interesting one.
I mean, that's probably not going to happen.
Any hard feelings from the Olympic snub?
Yeah, I don't think. I don't know. I'm just curious.
Well, a couple things about the Kraken here. Let's take a look at their lineup because, as Lud said up front, they have some pieces. In fact, we've talked about it on our show. We had Allison Lucan from the Kraken TV broadcast on a week ago talking about Jordan Eberle, Ellie Tolvanen, Jaden Schwartz. There's some good conversations. And Luds, that's kind of the problem with Seattle. They should probably trade those three rentals, the expiring contracts that are pending UFAs, but they need to make the playoffs. And if they get rid of Eberle or Tolvanen or Schwartz or all three of them, and Jamie Oleksiak on defense, who's also a UFA after this year, it's going to hurt their chances of getting into the playoffs.
Well, they just set themselves back 3 years. I mean, or 4. I don't by moving those 3 players that you're talking about, or 4. I don't know how you think you're going to make the playoffs next couple seasons. I mean, again, obviously depending on what you get back, but I'm not sure that those players demand somebody that's been in the league for 5 or 6 years and is a 30-goal scorer. You're going to probably get some young players and some draft picks and things like that aren't probably going to be what they're supposed to be for another 3-4 years.
So the last time these two teams met, November 26th, it's been a while since. In fact, Lian Bichsel played the last time they played the Kraken, and Mason Marchment was still a member of the team before he was traded to Columbus. That was more about the Marchment Kraken fit just didn't seem to be there. They had trouble finding where he was going to be on that team. He was hurt a bit. It's fit in Columbus. It looked really good. Well, in that game in November up in Seattle, the Stars never trailed. They had a lead. It was 1-0, then 1-1, then 2-1, 2-2. Vladislav Kolyachonok scored the game-winning goal with about 6 minutes to go in the third period. Since that point, after a really decent start to the season for Seattle, they went on a 10-game segment. They went 1-9, starting with that loss to Dallas. That was one of 9 losses out of their next 10. They fell out of the playoffs, and it was looking really bad. And we started talking about, boy, they might be cratering. Who can we harvest from that roster? Well, then after that, they went on a 10-game point streak, 8-0-2, got themselves back in things. Another dip where they went 2-5-1, but then before the break, 5-1-0. They are a roller coaster team, Luds. They're streaky. But the thing about Lane Lambert is he has gotten them to figure out they're not going to win 6-5 games, but they can win 2-1 games.
Yeah, well, and that's what you like about coaches, is they understand what they have and what their game is and what they're capable of doing, and not reaching outside of what they can do. That game there, I remember that game, but it was a game that for us, we were sitting there going, we were shaking our head at Dallas. It wasn't about anything that Seattle did, right? I mean, are you kidding me? Like, how do you, it was that slide that we were talking about.
Well, you remember they had 2 shots on goal in the third period in a game they had a 2-1 lead in.
Yeah, and so, but from the standpoint of Seattle, they don't really care that team isn't up, and they may not even know how good that team had been playing at the time. They knew that they have a good power play and all the superstars in that team. So that's like when you walk into the locker room after beating a team like that, you're like, okay, now here's what we are. Here's what we can do. We play the right way. So I think that's probably what helped them, go on a little bit of a mini run there. But again, like you said, but you don't have a team like Seattle has to play the same way every night. They don't have the capability to get down by 2 goals like we've seen from Dallas and then find a way to get some late goals, tie it up, and then ultimately win it. They have to keep it close to the best. And, things start pouring in for them, which I don't see that happening. I think I just think that he knows what their identity is, and they have to know what it is, and they have to accept what it is. And we're going to be in more one-goal games, and it may be, I know it's a 4-3 league right now, or for the most part it is, but we may be more of a 3-2 kind of a team. That's what's going to get us into the playoffs and give us some success until we get a few more big guns on our team.
All right, two quick things to finish off our pregame show. One, here's the look at the goalies. Casey DeSmith against Joey Daccord, the starter for the Kraken, as we expect. I still haven't seen anything from Seattle as far as who's in the net, but I believe that he is the starter tonight. And Casey looking to go for the 3-game season series sweep against the Kraken. He will have started all 3 games this year against the Kraken. Won the first 2, wins tonight. He'll sweep them. That'll be nice. And then, Luds, on a bit of a somber note, it's a guy that we both know really well. I don't know if you ever met him in person. I never did, but we lost, as a hockey world, a great contributor to the sport in Jim Boomer Gordon, a longtime radio host at Sirius XM NHL Network Radio. I personally loved when I was on his show. He had me on, I'd say, once every month or two to talk about the Stars. And I don't know of a guy who, of any of the appearances I've done on other radio stations, that asked better questions than Boomer. He was well-informed. He was thoughtful. It wasn't one of those let's scream at things. It was really serious in a good way with a nice dry sense of humor. And I tweeted this earlier today, Luds. Every time he brought me on, the intro music was Stevie Ray Vaughan because of the Dallas connection. It was just those little subtleties that made him an incredible professional, great radio guy for the NHL, and way too soon, 55. He was great and very, very missed.
Yeah, condolences to all those guys there, especially Jake Hahn. I mean, those two have worked together for a long time. Yeah, he had his own, man, he kind of marched to the beat of his own drum, but he didn't care if it was controversial or not. Here's my thought, here's this, here's that. He'd put it out there and he'd let it sit there, and then he would just continue to I loved what he did, his analytics, and he would go back and dig up stats from 30 games ago, and then he had the number crunching he did. Yeah, he will be missed on that show and on that network for sure.
So a nice tribute from us. We both enjoyed him, and hopefully his family and friends will get some peace because he went through it with his battle with cancer. So Jim Boomer Gordon, we will miss you. We will be here for the post-game show. It's just me and Luds tonight, no Sam. And, of course, Ryan. And hopefully, Luds will get plenty of... Maybe he's inside the R2-D2 robot. Maybe he's in the droid tonight.
He up in the perch at the game?
Not tonight.
Oh.
No Sambo. He's on the IR for the night.
Oh, he's not. I thought he might do a remote from that little car bed of his that Ryan had going on there.
Well, here we go, guys. Stars, Kraken, should be fun. Let's see what Luds and I come up with the post-game show with no video breakdowns because he's on the remote, no Sam, and hopefully a lot of super chats here on DLLS.
We all silly like the mayor.